Welcome back. Well, week for the markets, but let's talk about commodities now. Manisha Gupta caught up with Ragnar Udd, who is the global CCO, BHP, and spoke with him on how the company, as a leading mining player in the world, is looking at sustainability, cost effectiveness, and decarbonization, and new sectors that the company is looking at in terms of future investments.
For BHP, our own story in terms of decarbonization, we've already achieved 30% reduction in our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions relative to 2020. Something that we're very proud of, but nonetheless, we know we have a long way to go forward. And so part of that, and the biggest part for us in terms of Scope 1, remains around diesel and reducing diesel usage from our vehicles in the longer term.
I'll move on and talk about iron ore, another very important one in your portfolio. What's your sense here on supply, prices, demand, etc.?
So in terms of supply, we see ample supply in the market at the moment. Demand is moderating, and what we're seeing in China is for the 6th year in a row, we see them sitting at about 1 billion tons a year of steel, but a very different type of billion tons of steel as compared to 3-4 years ago. We believe that India will also continue to grow from about the 150 million tons of steel being produced at the moment to close to 300 million tons over the next several decades. So an exciting spot to be in. That said, we do know that, again, iron ore will be slightly different because India tends to be self-sufficient when it comes to iron ore.
But we do take price cues from the international market, so that's a market to keep an eye on.
Indeed.
When you talk about the Indian, associations here, you've recently signed an MOU with SAIL India. You have association also with Tata Steel. How are these markets treating you? What is the kind of further partnerships that you are doing here?
So great reception within India, and I can share with you not only in terms of SAIL and Tata, but more recently we signed an agreement with JSW as well. So now we're associated basically with the 3 largest steel producers in India with a pathway towards decarbonization. And we recognize there is no one single solution on that at this point. So we're partnering on CCUS, CCS, different ways of actually producing steel, whether that's electric arc furnaces, electric smelter furnaces, or even electrolysis. But this will play out over the future, and it's important for us to actually pursue alternate pathways there towards that outcome.
I will move on to another commodity which BHP does a lot in, and that is metallurgical coal. As a market, how is that building up now? And when you look at decarbonization and when you look at coal on the other side, how are you balancing it both?
Metallurgical coal is an interesting commodity, and the world seems to be a bit fixated on coal and the impact of coal, as opposed to the emissions that are actually generated from it, which I would advocate are actually the area that needs probably the bigger focus. We believe the coal that we produce is the highest qualities of coals. And so against that overlay, we believe that blast furnace technology will continue to play an important part in terms of steel production, and therefore the development of certain countries, including India, over the next 20 to 30 years. And therefore having the highest quality products you can use in that steelmaking process is essential. And so we will continue to partner with a number of Indian steel companies to actually help bring that product to market.
For the longest time, I was following BHP also for nickel. In the last couple of years, that story seems to have really gone down, especially with what happened with prices in 2022. Where do you stand on nickel right now?
Oh, nickel is a tantalizing commodity because it actually has scale. And we actually see the demand being very strong in terms of nickel in the foreseeable future because we think it is linked to battery technologies and how that will unfold. But what has changed here has really been about supply, and Indonesian supply in particular, where we will see Indonesian supply increase basically from 5% several decades ago to over 60% of the world market this year. And so what that has meant is that we've seen prices depressed quite significantly, going from about $25,000 a ton down to about $15,000 to $17,000 a ton. And so what that means is we put our business on temporary suspension at this point. We'll revisit that in the next couple of years because we think that there's potential there, but that really depends on both demand triggers and supply signals as well.
All right, so how long are you going to review those businesses? Some of the reports suggest 2026-27 perhaps.
2027 is the year we'll actually get back into it.
All right. I will move on now to Potash, and that really is the upcoming one for you. With the kind of spend that you're making in Canada with this one, where are the plans right now? What is going to be the total spend? How are you looking at the profitability onto this one?
We are so excited about getting into Potash, and there's a strong linkage to India on this one as well. And the reason why we've actually decided to get into Potash is this is a world market of about 70 million tons a year. So it's got the scale that we look for as an organization. And what we've seen over the last 50 years is a demand signal that's growing on average about 2 to 3% per year based on growth in population. And it's against that overlay that having now secured a very large tenure in the Saskatchewan Potash Basin. We're so thrilled to be bringing on our first phase project, Jansen Stage 1 and Jansen Stage 2, between late 26 and 2029 as we start to ramp up to about 8 million tons a year capacity. Now, we think this is something the world needs, and particularly in India, how we think about fertilizers and food production, this is something we're looking forward to partnering with Indian companies on.
All right, that is a wrap on this edition of Halftime Report from Ekta, me and the team that put this show together. Thank you so much for watching. Business Lunch takes the action forward.